I wandered over many a shore and plain in my journeys, and my mind still finds itself drawn back to the younger landscapes of Tal'Dorei. Wearing history's deeper scars far from view, I find it one of the more vibrant realms in Exandria to witness. Mind you, any calm only causes my old bones to itch with mistrust. Even the ripest of fruits can carry a rotten core. Best you stick to the roads, friend. Greetings and well met, adventurers, wherever you may be in Exandria. In this series of videos on lore, I will focus on Matthew Mercer's world, featured on Critical Role, specifically the continent of Tal'Dorei. From the frozen Neverlands in the north, to Ribad Kol and Tizarm in the south. From the volcanic Visa Isle on the western Osmet Sea, all the way to Stilban and the Lucidian coast to the east. Tal'Dorei is truly a vast world, ripe for adventure. So, supply your gunslinger with enough black powder from your favorite merchant, buy your barbarian 3 barrels of ale, and hop on your moorbounder to explore the world where the legendary vox'machina and Mighty Nine await. This episode will focus on the campaign setting book itself as a whole, with future episodes detailing the history, the geography, religion, factions and societies, character options, and other rules for your own Exandria campaign. As such, the contents of the book are tied only to the first campaign of Critical Role, as the second one started in 2018. Still, it has a lot to offer and feels like a fully fledged out campaign setting book. Comparing it to the Forgotten Realms book for 3rd edition, or even the Eberron book for 3.5, it's a little on the lighter side, but I don't mind the less shelf space it occupies. It is still a great book. It only shows that any homebrew world can be fleshed out and turned into a published setting. So, a small advice for DMs, keep your world building notes, you never know when you might need them. The book itself has a little less than 150 pages divided into 4 chapters. The first chapter deals with running campaigns in Tal'Dorei, explaining the history and most important events before, during, and after the calamity. The pantheon of Exandria is presented next, with the prime deities and betrayer gods listed, all of whom are not explicitly named, I'm guessing for copyright reasons. Still, one can deduce who are the deities in question, and if not, be sure to watch the Gods of Exandria episode when it's uploaded. Switching back to mortal beings, all the races, common and uncommon, are presented, with humans as always being the most populous. Dwarves and elves are more or less standard, while there are 2 options for dragonborn characters, one with a tail and one without. An interesting addition to this chapter are the 12 factions and societies. Each faction, apart from flavor text, has a paragraph on its goals, relationships, and a list of figures of interest. Every faction entry is between 1 and 2 pages long, and you may find familiar characters on their respective figure lists, as the viewers of Critical Role should already know. This concludes Chapter 1, which was about 40 pages long. Chapter 2 is bulkier, with around 60 pages, and deals with different locations of Tal'Dorei, or Gwesar in Elven tongue. Before the Gazetteer itself, the passage of time, calendar, and holidays are presented. A year in Exandria is a little less than on Earth, with 328 days over the course of 11 months. The 4 seasons remain the same though, as well as the 7-day week, and a day lasts 24 hours. Each section of the Gazetteer starts with an intro text of the region, with subsections named after a subregion, city or town, or landmark, each with 1 or more adventure hooks, with a note for which character tier the adventure could be. It is similar in design to the Faerun guide from 3rd edition, with again less flavor text and more focus on adventure hooks. And I must say that I like it, since there can never be enough plot hooks for your own adventures, and in my opinion, this is better than a quasi-random adventure hook table. Here and there are text boxes with some fun and interesting facts about an NPC, an item, or a useful tip concerning that region itself. The Gazetteer has 8 regions and starts with the Lucidian coast all the way to Rift and Mist Peninsula and the Verdant Expanse, and ends with the distant regions of Exandria, hopefully to be covered in more detail in a next book. I must say that the book features a lot of illustrations and they are top-notch. They really depict the diversity of Tal'Dorei and can help players and game masters alike get immersed in the setting. Chapter 3 is all about character options. First, several class options are presented. While the Gunslinger archetype and Bloodhunter classes are officially part of the Exandria setting, I will just focus on the contents of this book, but I promise to do an in-depth analysis of Matt's homebrew classes and archetypes. We are introduced to 4 new archetypes: the Blood Domain for the Cleric, Path of the Juggernaut for the Barbarian, Runechild Sorceress Origin, and the Way of the Cobalt Soul Monastic Tradition. We also have 5 new backgrounds and 9 new feats. The next 15 or so pages focus on magic items, or rather the vestiges of divergence, as they are called in the book. Every magic item starts with a dormant state, progressing in power to an awakened state, and reaching its full potential as an exalted vestige. These basically item levels can be either tier-based, or they can progress with story arcs, depending on the playstyle of your game and your dungeon master. Chapter 3 concludes with optional campaign rules and general guidelines when running a Tal'Dorei campaign. For larger parties, in order to accelerate combat, drinking a potion can now be used as a bonus action instead of an action. But Matt reminds us that if this is the case, enemies get this feature as well. Also, at 8th level, players should be able to cast more than one non-cantrip spell per turn, but only one of the spells can be level 3 or higher. Another rule is accelerated downtime, either by having 30 minutes for a short rest, or using an option where a short rest can be 5 minutes, but in that case, healing with hit dice is halved, and characters gain 1 level of exhaustion on top of that. Finally, alternative resurrection rules are presented, and my advice is to keep your character alive. Every time you are brought back from the dead, you permanently lose 1 point of constitution, and only a carefully worded wish spell can bring it back. Or you can apply the madness rules, where your character loses his or her sanity each time their spirit is pulled back from the grasp of death. The last chapter, Allies and Adversaries, is more or less a bestiary, or rather a field guide to the creatures of Tal'Dorei. General guidelines for aberrations, beast folk, fae, giant and goblinkin, and of course orcs are presented here. Also, the areas which you can encounter them, their societies, and a bit of their history as well. A total of 16 stat blocks for creatures are given, ranging from the Ashari elemental barbarians, clasp assassins, various Goliaths, and my favorite, the Ravager Stabby Stabber. Overall, this is a good source book if you want to run and play in a Tal'Dorei adventure or campaign. I highly recommend it for any DM or even a player who is a fan of Critical Role, and I believe this is just the first of many books. I think we should expect at least a Wildmount book when the second campaign of Critical Role ends. To wrap up this video, I would like to thank you for your support. Gravity Bits is growing slowly but surely. You can leave any comments regarding your favorite place in Tal'Dorei, and be sure to check out the next video in this series. Cheers!